since passed within the last 3 months. So this is just a tribute to them. Discussions about menopause are becoming more widespread and also very commercialized. And we are seeing and hearing more about it in the mainstream media. But two of the things that struck us as editors when we were working on it was who was doing that talking and did their stories resonate with us. Those of us contributing to this book have not always been able to be open about our lived experience on many fronts. And as Black people, many of us have been schooled to keep our business at home or keep it amongst ourselves, a survival technique which we developed during slavery and colonization and has been handed down through the generations. But we curated this book so that others could see themselves and know that there is more than one way to experience menopause. When we first started having discussions on menopause way back in 2014, we were at two different stages in our own personal menopause journey. We wanted to connect with others to understand what we were going through. When did crying with laughter become weeing with laughter, as what felt like tears will trickle down your legs? What could we do about the bald patch that was beginning to appear in our beautiful dreadlocks? How can we have that uncomfortable conversation with a partner about the tender breast and the sore vagina that was taking the pleasure out of lovemaking? The opening chapter in this book, Menopause, educates in so many ways, and it's very thought-provoking, especially against the imagination of growing older with joy. So many of us just trundle along, not thinking about what happens to our bodies as we age. And that chapter sheds light on the benefits of awareness and readjusting our mindset. The chapter on aging is also juxtapositioned with another, Since I Was 12 Years Old, in which she recounts having to navigate premature menopause at such a very young age and not having enough information and support, and the impact that had on her desire to be a mother. In doing the book, one of the major threads, amongst many that the writers were struggling with, was monthly menstruation, periods, and the tide of emotions and feelings that this brings up. But many of these stories in this book reflect moments of happiness and the prospect of no more pain, no more heavy bleeding, and sexual interruptions that menstruating often brings, and at the prospect of menopause with sometimes brought a sense of freedom. The complex interplay between well-being and slavery, colonialism, racism, bias, prejudice, and the inequalities and unevenness that comes with the terrain is shared by many. But even though menopause can sometimes cause debilitating symptoms, it is neither a disease nor a curse. There is a historical and cultural belief springing from our African ancestry that has been handed down through oral storytelling traditions, that the earth and feminine bodily functions are spiritually intertwined, and that lunar cycles influence menstrual, menopausal, and sleep patterns. Our bodies are our temples, and we choose to treat them with reverence. I'll now read a bit from my chapter. I cannot begin to tell you how worried I was and how many hours I spent telling myself that no matter what, I couldn't be a burden on my family. Yet I didn't know what to do, as it was obvious that my memory was fading and confusion was running full speed ahead to take its place. Theatre tickets to 7:30 p.m. on the 17th of June was what came out my mouth, but my brain meant theatre tickets, 6:30 p.m., 17th of April. 1 hour, 2 months makes a huge difference in a diary. The fear that dementia was galloping towards me was real. It would not shift from my mind. And then I found my car keys in the fridge, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The key rack is not anywhere near the fridge, opposite ends of the room. And as a fast car enthusiast, I know that engines sometimes need cooling down, but not keys. The moment I opened the fridge and saw the keys next to the butter, I felt I was being robbed of my sanity. So in between sobs, sweating palms, heart palpitations, I phoned the doctor's surgery for an appointment. That in itself is the anxiety-inducing experience. Because if ever there was an award for the rudest receptionist, the one at my doctor's surgery was a serious contender. And true to form, she didn't disappoint. like being treated like an inconvenience, and once challenged a nurse who fouled her brow as I was writhing with excruciating period pains and hemorrhaging through 2 maternity pads. She dismissed my symptoms as minor, at the same time raising her voice so that others can hear, just to let me know that the GP had a lot of patients to see and I should go home and have ginger tea. Luckily, I stubbornly insisted on seeing the doctor and ended up having surgery and a blood transfusion. When the euphoria of knowing that I wasn't descending into a spiral of dementia subsided, anxiety rushed in. Confirmation from the GP that I was experiencing menopause symptoms gave an explanation for the persistent fluctuations in my body temperature, but my mind took a leap into the future and landed in a place of fear and uncertainty. A place where I suddenly felt great discomfort in my body, conjuring up images of decrepitude, because then my only understanding of menopause was that it was a gendered, age-related illness spoken about in hushed tones. And I overheard gossip about a person who disgraced herself by having a menopausal baby. I heard of someone whose husband left her because she would no longer have sex, and a co-worker who wore wigs to cover up her hair loss. It is that need for reassurance that led me to reach out to friends and friends of friends and relatives, and in some instances, just total strangers on the internet. But menopause is no longer that life-limiting disease that my ignorance and lack of knowledge led me to believe it was. I found solace in solidarity, shifted my perspective, and no longer focused on the ever-increasing list of symptoms, which vary from 34 to 42. We get told those are synonymous with the menopause. I can assure you that it took a long time of re-evaluating and reconstructing the way of being, and I still don't have all the solutions, but I take the journey as it comes. I'm a creative person, and I lean into my artistry, which means that part of me living in my authenticity is using my body as a canvas for self-expression. So I aligned my actions with my intentions. I took the clippers and I built a new Mohawk style hairstyle. I said goodbye to the locks that were thinning and receding. I wear waist beads that are tied on my body on one of my trips to the African continent. They have a deep spiritual rite of passage significance and are viewed as a symbol of sensuality, sexuality, femininity, and spiritual well-being. But because they're never removed, I immediately notice changes in my shape and weight. So I can easily identify any foods that cause me to bloat, and the feeling of them rubbing against my skin is therapeutic. And I must say, when I look in the mirror, I feel a little sexy. My menopause journey has been a roller coaster, amplifying the fragility of life, but conversely enabling me to see and understand myself within a much larger context. I've been transparent and shared with others, and that has created connections that have inspired and empowered me. I've been brave and vulnerable, showing up in raw form and trusting the process of letting in on some of my deeper secrets. I've done that even when being triggered, but I've held on fast to the belief in love and support of those in those spaces. I've been open to questioning and learning and asking hard questions. I've listened intently and deeply to the responses, paying attention to what is not being said and taking on board the knowledge and information shared. I've challenged healthcare systems, refusing to be treated with scant courtesies or blatantly ignored. I've advocated on behalf of others and helped collectively illuminate our life's journey. I believe that I am worthy and that I am good enough. And I'll finish by saying that pouring into myself has been a challenge. Maintaining balance sometimes is a struggle. So I'm being gentle with myself, practicing self-care and self-comfort as I settle into post-menopausal eldership. I face this wonderfully beautiful phase of my life with its ups and downs, embrace new experiences with gratitude, and if appropriate, I will consciously take up space, time, stand my ground, reclaim my power, and I will do so with joy.